for that part. And now he records it after I made it. Perfect. Hey, Manoj, do me a favor. Can you confirm on your side that you can see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, wonderful. So the purpose of our time together, team, is just to walk through what's top of mind, specifically in the manufacturing space and with Salesforce. We're going to spend 10 minutes doing some slide work and then 20 minutes going through some demo work. But I like you to think through this lens that's, yeah, we're focusing on the manufacturing space, but the methodologies are spilling over from different verticals as well. We're approaching this in all the other sub verticals throughout the Salesforce at large team. So in true Salesforce manner, what I have here is a lot of words, forward-looking statements. If you've gone to any Salesforce related events, you've seen this before. It's a fancy way of saying that we're a publicly traded company, and for any purchasing decisions should be reviewed and be based upon current product offerings. That's all it means. But now that we've got the safe harbor clauses out of the way, let's have some fun with just knowing the audience members. So we're going to create a fun poll here. Where I'd like everyone to either get their phones out, scan the QR code, or get into their desktops on menti.com and enter that code 5419, and we'll put in our first poll. Just understand where everyone's coming from. So the first question that's going to come up when you go through that screen is, where's everyone coming from?
Sorry,
okay.
What was the code again?
The code is 2795419 at the top over here. And I'll copy that link. Okay, we've got education, we've got manufacturing. What else is over here? Fleets, nice. All right, a social site. I remember someone mentioned that they work in HR. I see education coming in, banking and finance, payrolls. Good. Okay, so that's a good amount from the team. Okay, we got some more event marketing. Nice, nice. That's a pretty diverse group we've got here, Manoj. So this is exciting. The next question, let's move forward for the next one, is, and security as well. Next one is, what do you hope to get out of this meeting? I mean, it could be anything when it comes to the manufacturing space, or who knows? I mean, it might be those vouchers that Manoj is mentioning earlier on. Let's see what the audience says. All right, we've got learn, we've got gather information. Inventory management, good. TDX recap, nice. Okay, someone wants to see a live demo, awesome. And learn about manufacturing cloud, all right. Virtual contacts, okay. Great, great. Thanks for sharing, team. Just want to understand more about where everyone's coming from, so we can start catering some of the messaging for this group. One thing to point out here, Manoj, no one said vouchers over here. I'm sure they still want it. Don't take it away from them, but just something to keep in mind.
That's always people to get motivated to learn and get certified. So yeah, I'm gonna give away, no worries.
Good, good. We're not taking away the vouchers for the team. Rest assured. So with that, let's keep moving forward. So I want to say a big thank you for this team, just for letting us to come in. Being at a user group meeting is special to me for this. And the reason why is 6 years ago, I was a lost kid out of college, barely could figure out a couple words together to present. And I stumbled my way into a user group meeting where I met a lot of great individuals where they've taught me a lot. They brought me into the Ohana Salesforce culture, held me accountable while I failed a lot every step of the way. And just want to say thank you for what you guys are doing with this group. It's groups like this that help me and countless others build a foundation to make an impact in our own respectful way. So I want to say thank you, Manoj, for hosting this for everyone. Great. And I saw the thumbs up, Manoj. Awesome. So let's get into the subject matter for this. So big background just to level set. We're going to spend majority of our time reviewing the manufacturing space. But again, the principles can be applied to the other industries that we mentioned, like HR, payrolls, financial services. What you'll see on the screen here is one of our bragging slides. We've been in the space for 20 plus years, and we've got a lot of manufacturing customers in our place. And what we do with these customers is we learn, we listen, we come in with that beginner's mind to understand what's working, what's driving value for them, and what are the things that we need to improve on, or some of the challenges that haven't been addressed yet. And that's what comes into mind when we go into these types of vertical spaces like manufacturing, where we ask the customers what's top of mind for them. And we do this every year. And we get in those trends and reports that come in. And for this past year, the top 5 most common reports were, 1, we got to make it easier to do business with them. Competition's tight. We want to ensure that we're making it our top choice to do business with. Number 2, how do we incentivize our partners to actually come in and be a part of our ecosystem, whether they recommend us as vendor of choices or they give us as the positive brand experience. Service is top of mind from what I'm seeing with the customers. And what I mean by that is we're revisiting the service model. We see service like call center works as traditionally a cost center. They're not producing any form of revenue or profit. But we're looking to have that shift now for service to drive revenue from selling warranties, cross-selling, providing product recommendations, or finding insights to a customer and then creating opportunities on behalf of the sales team because they're closer and more intimate with some of our customers in these days. And last but not least, actually second to last, is how do we make it easier for employees to do their job and make it faster for them to do what they're paid to do. And all of that requires unlocking data across the board. That way it's easier for them to do their job. But that requires a unified experience. So back in the day, the best product gained the largest market share. Flat out, best qualities, best word of mouth, everyone purchases. But as products become more and more commoditized and competition grows, we had to look at additional competitive advantages. So it doesn't help with social media and Amazon in our space. Raising those expectations of consumers demanding real-time service. But in order to do that, we do have to create that unified experience for both customers and to employees. But it's pretty hard to do. There's a lot of spreadsheets out there for reports, systems that are not communicating with each other. And of course, the age-old workflow of manual data entry. All of this makes it tough to create that unified experience, but that's where Salesforce can play a role in addressing this need for that unified experience. And that's where Salesforce for manufacturing comes into play, where we'll come in and what we'll focus on is how do we modernize the operations internally to make it easy to see when new business comes in, orders that come in, and then the invoicing and the servicing aspect, making it easy for partners to do business with us. How do we incentivize partners and track the return on investment for partners? That way we're both transparent in how we're operating. And then we've got the service experience. Again, how do we find a way to shift the model of service to be a sunken cost center to that which provides revenue for the business? And then make it easy for the team to do business for us, making it more agile for the workflows, easy to work from anywhere, essentially encompassing translating that data into actions and insights after we're capturing them across the board for the team. That's what we're looking to get accomplished with Salesforce. So for our time together, since it's constrained and tight, we're going to focus on the Modernize commercial operations piece. So this is an IT architecture review. I only have a few more slides left before we dive in. So bear with me with this. It's from a bigger picture of the workflow. How do we, as Salesforce, play in the space of helping service our customers? So through innovations and acquisitions. So acquisitions, we have some of the things that we pulled into our systems, like B2B commerce is now in our systems, or some quoting management systems in place. Or like what we've heard, like even Slack Equip. I mean, we just acquired another company within the Slack ecosystem to help marry Slack, which is a communications channel, closer and closer to Salesforce to have that digital HQ. Some of the things that we also focus on is innovations in-house. And that's where we'll dive into this, is the manufacturing cloud, where it's industry-specific solutions. Again, we heard what's going on with our customers, and we built out the model to help address some of their problems. We've got manufacturing for sales and for the service team. So with what we have in store for today, we'll focus specifically on the manufacturing for sales. And if you want to understand more about it, I'm happy to discuss more after hours after this call to walk through some of the possibilities of what we have for manufacturing cloud. But we'll focus on the account forecasting and the sales agreements piece during our time together. And sales agreements means plans versus actuals and some forms of inventory management. Christian, I saw that in your post. And also just discuss about what we're hearing and what we're seeing in the market. So for example, there's some really cool innovations that I see from the customer side of things that you wouldn't normally think of for like these use cases for, let's say, like CPQ or for marketing, but they're using it in a really innovative way. So for example, just down the road from where the Mountain House is, there's a cardboard manufacturing company. They're using MuleSoft, which is an integration platform that we have to connect different systems, to pull in factory shop floor data. It's like all the like moisture limits, yields, error rates, and pulling into Salesforce and running Einstein analytics to make recommendations on moisture adjustments and efficiency rates, and pushing it back into the machines to take action. It's really cool just to see like how they're actually operating in those kinds of manners. Or there's this other manufacturer that does maintenance work, and instead of having a check, what's it called? Name's escaping me, like a little checkbox list or a punch list, they actually have it on Slack, where they enable a workflow that gives them real-time checklists of like what you need to do to make sure that this machine is created according to spec. And all of that's being fed back into Salesforce. So just some ideas as to like some of the innovations that we're seeing in the manufacturing space today. But again, our focus will be on the sales agreements, so plans versus actuals, and account forecasting. How do we put in the future value of these products in the manufacturing space? So yeah, and here we have some value statements as to like why Salesforce for manufacturing. We've been in space for some time. We want to create one place for everyone to do business. You're not jumping around different systems, logging into different entities. It's one place to rule it all. And how we do that, just a few more slides. We see this as the value map with the Salesforce customer experience. So think of it as like a subway station, Tom, where you could jump in and off of different systems. But essentially, this is where we play, from marketing, nurturing, and providing awareness for new products to the sales components, now sales operations from a forecast and planning role. And how do we provide that digital experience that people expect from like due to the nature of the market today, and providing that connected customer experience. Any questions with what I've discussed so far? Okay, cool. I take silence as shut up, Daniel, just keep moving forward with this. So don't take our word from it, from like just painting the vision of this. I have a couple examples of customers that's gone through this digital transformation. So Honeywell, large manufacturer, they make everything and all things in the USA. And the key takeaway from them is they were looking to help simplify their process. So in order for a large manufacturer like Honeywell to operate, they had to simplify, consolidate, and make it easy for 100,000 employees to use their systems, to log activities, to move forward, manage their projects. And it's not an easy task. And with Salesforce, they're able to not only onboard 100,000 employees globally, but have them aligned to each other using the full suite of Salesforce, from sales, service, to manufacturing, and extending it over to web portals. Another example of this was Sun Tools. So what's manual and repetitive, and how can we automate workflows to save time and money? What's their goal? Like, how do we make it easy for the employees to do their business? Well, by leveraging automations, we're able to cut down those time spent doing that down and dirty data entry work by 50%. So making it easier to not even do those data entry work so that the team can focus on higher priority tasks was something that was meaningful for Sutton. And also, how do we make it easier to do business with us? Well, prior to Salesforce, they didn't have a web portal. So having a web portal now enables the customers to make a quicker purchase, and also self-service themselves, reducing inbound calls coming in and enabling customers to figure things out, and have customers help other customers. So those are some of the examples that I've highlighted from the use cases I'm seeing like on the ground with the AI push and pulls of integrations and factory works, and what we're seeing with the customers in play with these case studies. Before I dive into the demo, any questions, or did I lose anyone?
No, it's good.
Yeah, no questions. So if any questions, if you don't want to ask, you can just post it in chat. So yeah, we'll happy to take those.
Yes, please. I will be monitoring the chat like my life depended on it. So please ping away, or come off of mute and feel free to interrupt me and just ask any questions as we're going through this. So what I have for the demo is we're going to walk through two different personas. We're going to go through a sales rep, day in a life. He manages new business and existing businesses. So think of like an account manager in place. And then we have an executive that's going to look at things big picture. How do we measure everything, ensure that we're moving in the right path moving forward? So with that, let's dive into the demo. So meet Vance. So Vance is a trusty sales rep who's going to walk us through the Salesforce experience. So he's not only responsible for acquiring new business, but he's responsible for those forecasting revenues for the existing customers and making sure that Badger, his company, is meeting those revenue goals that are being forecasted out. So for this demo, we'll show how Salesforce can help Vance identify which customers needs his attention the most, and how can he keep his sales forecast up to date. So that Elliot, his manager, doesn't have to chase him down for this information. So as I switch over to the Salesforce ecosystem, Vance logs in. The first thing he sees is his homepage. This is like his front page of a newspaper. It contains all the headlines, important details he needs to essentially do his job. We've got his new business, which are standard Salesforce dashboards that you could surface to see what's going on. But what we want to focus on is the run rate business. So run rates is a term that people may or may not know, but what run rate is how do we, if we've got verbal commits from customers to produce X amount of units, where are we at in that plan? Are we 25% there? Are we 50? Are we 75%? How does that operate? So because Vance is compensated on his forecast of how many we believe that we're going to produce based on the commitments we've made with these customers, let's dive deeper into what his current forecast is. So if I click into his forecast attainment, we're going to get a list of all the key accounts available for him to review and where are they at according to plan. So we have these 4 accounts that are doing above plan, but we're underperforming for a fair amount of these other accounts, such as Acme Partners, which is a key account. It's one of his biggest accounts, and he wants to dig into what's happening with this specific account since they're at 94% of their attainment. And let's say it's in November and we got to dive in. So let's go ahead and open that record just to understand what's going on. So it's Vance heads into the partner's account record. Think of this as that one-stop shop for everything that involves this account. On the bottom right, we have like the traditional activity threads. You may have seen this if you're familiar with Salesforce, but it's tracking all of those calls, emails, meetings, etc. But where we want to focus on is this new piece of Salesforce functionality within the manufacturing cloud space, and it's the sales agreements. This is where we're looking at plans versus actuals. So if I dive into this particular sales agreement, I'm going to have some key information show up, some dashboards to help visualize some of the key metrics and where we're at with our numbers. But at the bottom, you're going to see what our products line is and how are we comparing from plan versus actuals. So the reason why this is important is as a manufacturer, you're always producing just in time. Do you have enough products in inventory to produce this? And how do we forecast from a future state standpoint? So for example, Compactor 9000, we have as an aggregate 72 that's been planned to produce, but we're not producing at that level. We're producing at 54 throughout the months at time. This gives us insights to understand, okay, if we're not meeting plans, we're going to have excess supplies, and that's going to cause wasted time in storage for location. How do we adjust for that? Or we can bring this up to the customer and say, hey, we agreed for this price point based on the amount that you're consuming. Are we on track? Is this a seasonal thing, or do we need to adjust accordingly from our planning standpoint? In a perfect world, it will look like this for a Compactor 9500, that what's planned is actually consumed, but rarely that happens. It always, we want to see what's the difference between those plans versus actuals. So we saw a plan where we're under consuming, but if we look at the overconsumption, like for this Trenchard T36, we're consuming way more than what's been planned. And that becomes an issue, not because like we're not going to take, not because of a revenue standpoint. I mean, we'll definitely consume that that revenue to some degree, but because we're taking more than planned, we might be taken away from our other customers and their allocated inventory that they're going to consume in the future. And as a result, this information is vital to not only have as a visibility for an account manager so that we're meeting with the customers to plan accordingly, but we're sending this information in the back end as well to send over to the manufacturer so that we can adjust. And if we need to start producing more trenchers, we're giving the hard metrics as to why we need to do this, because we're way above average in terms of what our average consumption rate is going to be. That's a lot of questions. That's a lot of statements there. I'll pause for any questions. Manoj, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah. So the sales agreement is, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. The sales agreement is a out of the box standard functionality, which is coming as a manufacturing cloud, right?
That's correct.
And how you feed the data like this looks like all the product availability planning, or maybe the stock based on that SKUs. So this, how is it like a storing in Salesforce or is coming from other system? How do you correlate that? I mean,
yeah, so that's a good call out. So it's flexible. You could either store it in another system or like a spreadsheet or like an ERP system and surface it here, or you could have it directly integrated and populate fields to have those actual quantities. It really just depends on what you need in terms of like your architecture, whether storage is an issue, then you're just surfacing that. Or if you want to have it here for a future state to run more analytics with the Tableau CRM dashboards that are included in Manufacturing Cloud.
Okay.
Is this a custom? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Abdul.
I said, is this a custom built app, or is this like from an App Exchange, or is out of the box from Salesforce?
It's out of the box. When you get Manufacturing Cloud, this is what comes with it. Well, it comes with a lot of things, but this is one of the this is what I'm highlighting for this session today.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. So let's keep moving forward with this. So let's talk about the forecasting aspect. So like we're doing these things from a sales agreement level for Acme partners. But one thing that we could also look into is from an advanced account forecasting standpoint. And let me know if we're losing people here, but this is how like a forecast would look like from a planning standpoint on the sales side. So like advanced account forecasting, fancy way of saying, okay, you have an idea of what it will look like. A manager has an idea of what it looks like. And there's some formulas that we're putting in for seasonality, for logistics purpose, etc. That's all baked into this advanced account forecasting, where as a sales rep, I have all my months being populated for these product categories or these product lines, and we want to make an update. Let's say we talk to Acme and we say, hey, what's going on with these compactor 900s? Like we're noticing a decrease in consumption from the order levels. And goes, yeah, like look, we're expecting to slow things down right now. We want to, but hey, we're looking to increase our compactor 9500s in the future. Well, what you can do is like, let's say for the month of June, since that's next month, we can go ahead and update that over here. So sorry, what was the number? It was 63,000. Let's just move this to 60,000. Decreased orders expected, so that you could input those metrics in place with those notes. And then you could go ahead and save that. That way there's context for all the changes that are going on from a forecasting perspective. And when your manager comes in, he'll notice that there was a change and there's a trail of what the expectations were. Why did these changes occur and who did these changes? That way, the manager, your manager, Elliot's not chasing you down for these updates, but rather have those insights front and center for them to make the necessary changes from their forecasts. Any questions with this? There's a lot of minutia when it comes to the workflows with forecasting. Cool. Awesome. Let's keep moving forward with this. The reason why this is important is all of these metrics usually comes from like a spreadsheet and they get emailed over to someone, and it's tough to manage that on a day-to-day basis because you don't know which spreadsheet's the most up to date. There's a lot of human error that you could occur, but now you could have it in Salesforce with true calculations and outputs. That way, this is now being fed into your forecasting model as a piece of the sales components. So that's part of the sales rep side. So we covered a good amount for it. We've dove into some analytics to see what key account is not performing. We dove into the run rate business, so that's the sales agreements, and we made adjustments to the forecast so that leadership can get real-time insights.
So Daniel, sorry to interrupt again.
Good.
So let's say we're doing forecast in ERP, most of the out of Salesforce tool. How we can take a leverage, advantage of reporting in Salesforce. So again, you have to integrate, bring the data, and then do all the reporting in Salesforce, or just keep it out of Salesforce.
Yeah, we are not replacing the ERP forecasting model. What this is right here is the S&OP variable for forecast. So the sales components, there's usually in typical forecast, there's a demand variable for what the sales team typically would put in. Saying, we expect 10,000 widgets. They're going to be come in for this. And then the manufacturer back end office takes that and puts in the calculations to say, okay, we're expecting to put 10,000 units because the sales did this, but then there's historical information and we've got to factor that in. What this is here is just the sales piece of the input for forecasting. This information will, like you mentioned, Manoj, will therefore be put back into a demand planning tool. That may be in your ERP system, it may be a separate system, but the goal is, how do we get the voice of the sales team into the forecasting model?
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Okay, so we've got 10 more minutes left, so we're gonna switch over to the executive's persona. So meet Elliot in his very serious, sultry look. So Elliot's that leader for the sales team that we've been talking about. His focus is how do we get up-to-date information and get insights into the business. So with that, let's go into Elliot's data life, his perspective of things. So manufacturing clouds will give a new perspective of how we're surfacing information. It's a blend of those Tableau CRM dashboards that come in, as well as some additional data models. So over here, Badger has a true consensus forecast. What I mean by that, we're agreeing on the sales rep side, we're agreeing on the management side, and this is what's coming up. As an executive, he wants to see what the changes are in any given time period, so he can start reviewing any of these changes coming from the account managers. And right from the dashboards, Elliot can understand how forecast revenue is changing, the delta within those changes, and how much are they changing in the future. So with that though, let's highlight what does it look like from that forecast perspective. So again, if we go back to that advanced account forecast for Acme, we're looking at that forecast category again, and you can start looking at those changes. Remember, we made those changes when we were advanced, and we have this, well, technically Daniel in this case, but we're seeing those adjustment notes in place. That way, we're as a sales leader, I'm not chasing down what does the forecast looks like for the team, and I'm not chasing down spreadsheets. It's all in one place for me to review and to manage in real time. Other things to look at is diving into the performance of a sales rep. So if I go into the product performance page, and again, this is with the manufacturing cloud. These are just some of the insights that we can surface. So if I'm in the sales performance page, I'm pulling in that information from all the sales that we've conducted over time by the products, by the categories, and by the individual. So let's say I'm going to have a meeting. Fans is good, but like now let's look into Cindy Central. So if I dive into Cindy's viewpoint, I can see what products is she selling and how are they performing over here. So if I dive into this Hammer 8700, looks like she's doing really good. She's performing above average for this, despite the rest of her team not doing well with this. This is something that I want to make sure I take note of and see if Cindy can share this at our next team meeting to share best practices for the Hammer 8700 sales practices. Other things to look at from here is, as we're going into this, let's look into from the sales trends to what's going on in the actuals and plans. So that 8700 was doing very well during that process, but we're looking at it's actually performing at 79% of that forecast over here. If I click into that, we're finding out that like specific accounts like this Omega account that's supposed to be purchasing this, we're at a decrease of from the revenue standpoint that we're looking at too, when we're looking at this from a more granular standpoint. And we're also looking at, okay, what are the trends going on? This enables you as a manager to start diving deeper and deeper into seeing the trends and patterns. What products are selling, what products are not, and how can I feed this back into, let's say, like a rebate management program as to things that are stale products or things that are accelerating. How do we adjust the forecast for those individuals? And then last but not least, as I go into these forecastings, like what's going on versus the actual forecast. And we're looking at this from a holistic standpoint. Again, we're looking at the trends that are performing over time and how are they performing based on what we're forecasting. And it doesn't just have to live in here. We could share this information to other individuals. So like after we're getting this insights from Cindy and from Vance about these product performances, we can go ahead and share this out to send out a dashboard snapshot of what's going on, send it to a specific individual, download this or share it externally. Again, the goal is how do we make it easier for the reps to do their job and for leadership to understand the trends and patterns within their book of business. That's what I have planned just for us to walk through. As a recap, we went through that sales rep perspective of diving into my accounts, seeing the past performances and current performances and making adjustments to forecasts. And then from a leadership standpoint, how do I see all that information? What can I do with that data in place? And that's where some of the visualizations come into play to help make it easier for leadership to make those kinds of decisions. From there, I'll pause because it was a lot of information. I'm sorry if I lost anyone on here, but yeah, just want to pause just to field any additional insights or questions in place.
No, it's really good, like a different personas, how they utilize the data. I mean, we are, as we're talking to you guys, we are in the same situation to get these kind of reporting. So yeah, that's helpful.
Does this help understand what manufacturing cloud is for those that's mentioned that specifically?
For me, it does. I haven't seen much of it, so this was great to get a good overview of what it is and what it's capable of.
When I study CPQ, I noticed manufacturing sector use CPQ a lot. So I come to the section assuming maybe there's something related to CPQ in the demo or talk.
Gotcha. I'm be more than happy to connect offline, Pearl, just to understand more about the CPQ stuff. and walk you through some of those things also.
Sure.
It's just because like we try to condense everything in a short amount of time. These were the top like most like asked about components in the manufacturing cloud. But yes, quoting is definitely an important thing. How fast can we get a quote to a customer? And like, how do we enforce it with the discount logics and approval rates? That's definitely top of mind. And we can discuss about that after this call, Pearl, if you want.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and I guess there are other components which we haven't seen here, like a rebate and lots of different things, which most of the manufacturing does. So, but yeah, I guess there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's the tough part. There's so much here, like what you described, Manoj. Like there's rebate management. That's something that's fairly new. Like how do we enforce that and surface what are the rebates that we can offer as a sales team and manage your rebate program in-house? Those are things that are like people are saying, what? That's possible? I don't have to manage 300 spreadsheets for all these rebates. Okay, how do we do it?
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I guess if more questions, post it here. Let's have some discussion. If you have any unique use case around manufacturing or anything which we can answer. If no more questions, then probably yeah, I guess we can move on to the next part of presentation.
Yeah. So
Thank you,
thanks
Daniel.
again. Yeah, thanks again for just hearing me out, team. I appreciate this.
Yep, that was pretty good. So specifics, demos, and really specific to persona that gives us some the use case to understand. It's pretty complex. Manufacturing world is like lots of pieces around. So yeah, great. Thanks again. So we're moving to the next part of session. Maybe I'll try to wrap up in 10-15 minutes, not to go in depth. But before going to do that, I want everyone to turn on camera for a minute and probably give some thumbs up, thumbs down, some heart sign or victory or whatever you like. We'll take a snap. If possible, just yeah, quick show time. All right, keep doing. So okay. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your cameras. It's good to see you guys. All right. Okay, let's go to the next part. I know some of them, Naresh is here, so we went together for TrailblazerDX. So this is quick recap what happened and some of the announcement and all these things. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So so mainly they changed the name from TDX like TrailheadDX to TrailblazerDX, and so I've been attending since last few years, but this was totally different. This was a little bit not too Salesforce platform specific. It's more around Salesforce. Like the biggest theme here was bringing together the 4 platforms, right? Mainly, we'll be hearing Salesforce acquisition about all those MuleSoft, Tableau, Slack since last couple of years, and now the conference was really plugging around those 4 platforms, bringing together and how they basically get a result, like how high value acquisition. So so they're more focused on right from the Slack, how you can leverage some of the experience, developer experience, leverage some flows for automation, and like it's totally like a new era of evaluation, how you can do a completely different implementation, not just looking at the Salesforce, but bringing all the collaboration down to the Salesforce. So that was the biggest theme, like bringing 4 platforms together. You can see some of the flashes from the TrailheadDX behind me. So it was great new learning. And again, for developers or non-developers, it's like the second part is basically, it's a big digital transformation. So we have seen like a low code and then pro code, and then trying to do a lot of things through the low code. And that's where it's mainly just being a developer is one thing, but what can do what previously the developers used to do achieve in like a low code capability. So that's more like around flows. You can see the flows everywhere. Like you can bring the flows in Slack and Tableau and everywhere, how we can leverage those. So more focus on like a low code capabilities and architecture and all those things. So these 2 big themes we have seen throughout this conference. So moving on to the next part is, so what features basically they have showcased or basically coming up and which will be helpful. So as I said, like a Salesforce flow integrated with Slack, MuleSoft, Tableau, and the RPA. So RPA is basically robotic process automation technology, right? So there's a huge momentum around Salesforce flow, and have been like a channeling huge amount of resources into developing flow innovation, which can be product across different portfolios. So so using this flow, like Salesforce builders will be able to like put into Slack, MuleSoft, and Tableau. So those are like a different areas you can bring that. So you can see the ability to execute lightning flows from Slack, ability to execute flows actions from Tableau, and basically RPA functionality also enables through the flow component. So it's basically low code automation with the power of flow. Basically they're doing everywhere, and it's totally different I've seen in compared to past few years. So that's a big some of the features, and seen demos and how they do that, so that kind of stuff. Then
Hey Manoj, one question.
Yep.
So that the Salesforce Flow integrated with the Slacks, do they made a business available to configure those rules, or it's like beta still?
I guess that's coming in June. So that's still in beta, but that's coming in June.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then the next thing is like the platform for Slack, right? So I guess I'll come to that big announcement later, but so the Slack platform, basically they come up with Apex SDK. So you can write Slack app using Apex code, and you can basically, let's say in a Slack, you can create a button which can click on that, create a case or create an account or create a lead, and that you can use a Apex syntax, Apex code, Apex language to build that. So if you're a Salesforce Apex developer and you know how the class is and how the Apex works, so you can use that knowledge and create a Slack apps in no time, and that's where the Apex SDK for Slack is. That's mainly the big announcement for the Slack development. So it has like both flow in Slack is a low code, and the Apex SDK for Slack is a pro code. That's the new Salesforce platform for Slack. And then if you are like an integration guy, if you're using MuleSoft or all those integration is MuleSoft. So mainly what they're coming up with the Anypoint Code Builder, this universal API management. So Anypoint Code Builder is a new like integrated development environment to create API or integrations, or so it's kind of a one single ID to do a variety of things, open source with Visual Source code and all those things. So so that's basically I don't use MuleSoft, but I've been some POCs, and it's like a pretty challenging for understanding, putting those whole IDE and those implementations and all the things. So now they're trying to make it easier using these IDs. So to make it more developer friendly. So I guess this one is again, for all the newlies, it's a big advantage for learning and doing those integrations. Okay. So before I go to this, I want to play one video. Let me see whether you guys can see that. Yeah, so let's play this video from the main keynote from the Quizland. Can you guys hear the audio of the video?
No.
Okay, let me switch.
And all of that learning, all of the achievements, all of your connections, they all come together on your Trailblazer.me profile, your trusted Salesforce resume. And we have some new things coming to the Trailblazer.me profile. We are announcing new Ranger ranks. You're gonna see these. Shut the front door. These are amazing. Do we have any Rangers here in the house? We got a lot of Rangers here. You all are gonna love this. We're also announcing brand new community tags and ecosystem certifications. So y'all wanna see this in action, right? Marciana, you wanna see this? I know you do. All right, so Stefan, Renan, wanna do one more demo? All right, so let's see all of this in action through the viewpoint of Miguel Martinez, an amazing Trailblazer. Yes, give it up for Miguel. So Miguel is a MuleSoft Trailblazer, and the Trailblazer.me profile is super relevant for his unique skills and his unique expertise because it showcases all of his learning. And Miguel is not only certified in Salesforce, he's also certified in MuleSoft, in Slack, in Tableau. And all of this comes together on the profile. Miguel, you've been keeping very busy. And now that you have all of these learnings, all these certifications coming together, you can showcase that to employers and to other community members to show your achievements. Now, speaking of communities, we have a new section here on the Trailblazer.me profile, community tags. So whether you are an awesome admin or you're part of the data fam, or like Miguel, a proud muley and an all-star architect, you'll be able to showcase your community tags right on your profile so you can see who you're on the same path with. And I think I saved my favorite feature for last here. So let's look here at Miguel. He's been keeping pretty busy, 199 badges and almost 100,000 points. He's hit Ranger and he has kept going. But yes, congratulations. And I mentioned a little thing called Ranger rank.
Okay, so that was a sneak peek, one of the keynote about the TrailblazerMe profile. So let me switch to my headphones real quick. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so so you can see the main oh sorry, Okay, back here. So the first announcement was mainly the Devops Center. If you're using Copado and all those things so far for doing your CI/CD or release management. So Salesforce Devops Center is gonna come officially this June. And there have been tons of demos and sessions around in Trailblazer TDX this year. So you should definitely learn about those. And then second was the Trailblazer me.profile, which I just showcased in that from keynote. And the Miguel was one of the golden hoodie winner for that, how he's doing in different platforms. And then the Tableau embedded analytics, like so this is another data visualization tools in the Tableau to give the Tableau analytic experience into the like own products or in applications. So if you're a Tableau expert, so they have a variety of tools coming around those. Then the Salesforce Elastic Cloud Vision. So the goal of this Elastic Cloud is to provide the ability to use scalable infrastructure, removing the limitations or governor limits. So currently, like Salesforce Functions is feature that supports Elastic Compute, and so we have seen like a beginner to advanced level of the Salesforce Functions demos and variety of breakthroughs sessions, how they use in different sessions, different scenarios. So basically, so that complex code can be auto scale environment to the customer control using like Heroku. So that's what we're talking about, Elastic Cloud Vision, and they're more and more focusing on Salesforce Functions can be like a build or develop using the like other platforms, like other syntax like a Node.js or Java or PHP, open source languages. So that's more focused on the this Elastic Cloud Vision. And then again, Hyperforce is still like limited to few regions and customers, but Hyperforce will allow customers to deploy the core Salesforce clouds to AWS, like or eventually in the Azure, the regions environment for like control or processing resources like a data or support the GDPR and all those things. So those are like it's a big announcement, and there are lots of partnership with different cloud vendors like Amazon, AWS. So you see one of the point here with the Amazon here. So these are few takeaways, like a Lightning Web Runtime, mainly creating a self-contained LWCs can be embedded into other platforms like outside Salesforce. So that's one of the very few examples we saw, like can be embedded cube documents, and they can be using those LWCs, quick cube documents. So event-driven architecture. So I attended a couple hands-on. So it's pretty different perspective of how we can use platform events for Salesforce Cloud or Lightning message channels or MuleSoft ESPs, how they can be played together to create like a whole event-driven architecture for a variety of integrations on all those different scenarios. So that's one of the area. Basically, it says it's evolving, and it's like a kind of no code thing, but it's more on tooling and how you basically take advantage of those in different scenarios. And again, Slack will eventually will be replacing the Chatter in future. And then I saw a couple demos on the replay debugger, like a checkpoints, and you can replay those, and then you basically so you might be familiar with breakpoint, right? Concept on the test class replay debugger. So so you want to map that your list variables or map variables, and basically want to use that for a debugging. So that's the replay debugger. Basically, you can use for all the development and I mean, going through all the data which is coming into arrays or list, and try to understand what goes here and what goes there. So that's the replay debugger, the checkpoints. performance assistant and scale center. So there's a neat tool being released for winter 23, and that can use to look at how your environment is operating. Okay, so how often and when does it happen? So like is it Apex or it is API? Is it like interactions? When is my org is being throttled? So there's a whole perspective on performance and the scale about your org. So that's something. There are lots of demos around that, and then there's a big partnership with Amazon, so AWS. So they have like a connector that will connect to DynamoDB from the Salesforce as external data source, and through the admin setup, you can do that, and you can bring in the data and like objects and fields. So there are lots of cool things, and so these are some of the takeaways I put here. I'm gonna share this slide once session is over on the event page where you did RSVP, and also the recording of the session. Okay, with that, I guess we conclude this session. So I'll move on to the last part of the session. Before we do that, if you have any questions, anything, just we can talk about those, or you guys can reach me back if any more details required, or any specific topics you want to understand on the recap which I did. I didn't go in depth because we don't have that much time, and there are lots of sessions available on the Salesforce Plus, or I can share some of the links where the content is there. You can go through those. So reach me out if you need specifics. Okay. All right. So let me close this slide. Anyone have any more questions? We can go through that, not just specific to these sessions, but around anything Salesforce ecosystem we can talk. Okay.
I just want to say thank you, Manoj. This is, I think, helpful, and especially the takeaways from the DX, right? Yeah, I think I myself joined that, along with Manoj this time. So a cool feature coming up. I think a couple of I can mention, maybe Salesforce function is another cool feature I like it's coming up. Maybe not sure it's related to you guys, but I work for Dropbox, and we do have like a lot of batch classes, batch, we do a lot of data processing. That's where I feel like, the Salesforce function could be helpful. So yeah, maybe check it out. And I'm excited for the DevOps. Right now we use Capado actually for CI/CD. So I looked into the demo what Salesforce is building, and I think it's cool. So yeah, check it out. Thank you, Manoj, for sharing all this.
Yeah. So Salesforce function, I guess they have a default, it calculated based on the usage, and also obviously these are all paid features, but those are based on your requirements. You can definitely build some out of the box integrations and make those like a elastic cloud code things. So yeah, it's always new to learn, and that's what I'm seeing this year. I saw a totally different Salesforce conference, which is like not talking about admin and development skills. So it's totally something different. All right, so we have almost, how many folks? We have 14. So do we have any questions here? Okay, now we're good. Okay, is anyone's name missing here? Let me know. I still see 14 folks here.
Yeah, it's missing mine. I'm fine.
Okay, you want to do certifications, more certifications?
I'm good. Thank you, Manoj. Just kidding with you.
Okay, let me stop recording. I don't want to capture this in recording. Oh, come on, you're kidding me. Okay.